Toni and Troy, Scary Story Ride, The Mysterious Man, Season 2, Episode 4. This was a great idea to earn extra money. Toni and Troy have just become rideshare drivers. They drive customers to their designated locations and earn money. Yeah, why don't we start the next ride right now? Sure. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Toni and Troy head over to the marked location to pick up Mr. Sutter. Toni is sitting in the front seat while Troy is driving. Toni and Troy drive around and see a man standing at the corner. They reach the place and see him waving at them from a distance. He is a very bulky man with big, beefy hands. His face has a huge red beard and a bald head. His eyes are stone cold and his mouth has a devilish smile. He is carrying a heavy bag. Ugh, he looks kinda creepy. He wants to go to Bigville Farms. This trip is far, but it will pay well. I guess. Let's give it a try. But I don't trust him. Hello, sir. Did you book the ride?
Why, yes, I did. Thank you.
Mr. Sutter enters the car and puts his heavy bag on the seat.
Well, hurry up. Get to it. I don't have all day.
Yes, sir. Toni and Troy start the car and head towards Bigville Farms. During the ride, Toni bumps Troy's elbow.
Hey, Troy. Do you smell that?
Smell what?
From the bag.
Tell me you can smell that too. It reeks of something weird.
What are you two whispering about over there?
Nothing, sir. We were just talking about the great weather. What great winds today.
Yes. I think I'll open my window.
Mr. Sutter opens the window. Suddenly, his phone rings. Mr. Sutter answers his phone, and Toni breathes a sigh of relief.
Hello, dear. I'm almost there.
Mr. Sutter is talking to a woman on the phone.
Oh, yeah. I got it all right. Don't worry. I made sure it was smooth and as quiet as possible. What's that you say? Oh, don't worry. I took care of all the blood, too. It took me a while to get it cleaned, but I finally got rid of it.
Did you hear that, Troy? He said blood. What have we gotten ourselves into here?
Don't get worried. He's talking on the phone. Maybe it's just a joke.
Yeah, I guess.
Suddenly, a strong wind blows from the window. The bag falls from the seat. Mr. Sutter is busy on his call, so he doesn't see it. A chopped limb rolls over to the front seat.
Troy! He has chopped off limbs in the bag. It's spreading blood everywhere. Do you see this?
Troy looks below him and sees a bloodied limb. He begins to freak out as well.
What are we going to do?
Don't worry. I made sure all the limbs were chopped off in small pieces. Can't have a repeat of last time.
Mr. Sutter now notices his bag has fallen. He bends over to pick it up and puts it back on the seat. He ties the opened end and doesn't realize that a limb has fallen and reached the front seat.
Let's just drop him off and get out of here. We don't have a choice.
Toni and Troy pull over at a gas station to refuel the car.
Why don't I go to the restroom while you two fill up the gas?
Mr. Sutter then steps out of the car and goes to the restroom.
I don't like the looks of this, Troy. We better finish this ride as quickly as we can.
I don't like it either, Toni. Troy is busy filling up the car. Toni goes to the restroom to make sure Mr. Sutter is out of sight. She then decides to have a peek at the back seat of the vehicle. She is curious about why Mr. Sutter had limbs in his bag.
What are you doing?
Don't mess with his stuff. The last thing we want to do is to alert him that we're onto him right now.
Don't worry, I'll be quick.
Toni then gets into the back of the seat and tries to check the bag. However, Mr. Sutter had tied it very firmly, and Toni couldn't open it. She finally opens it, and a disgusting smell comes out of it.
Don't you two know better than to peek into someone else's stuff?
I am sorry, sir. I was just making sure the seats in the back were clean and tidy. Let's go, Troy.
Toni quickly sits in the front seat, followed by Troy. Mr. Sutter eyes Toni with a suspicious look. They finally reach Bigville Farms. Mr. Sutter gets out of the car. He gives them a cash tip. Some of the bills have bloodstains on them. Toni, who is scared to death of Mr. Sutter, quietly and reluctantly accepts the cash. Mr. Sutter heads into the farm. Once Mr. Sutter has gone away, they begin talking. All right, we need to get out of here immediately. I don't like what I saw. I'm sure you didn't either.
I know, but that guy definitely looks like a murderer. I mean, he had chopped off limbs in his bag. I thought it was a little smelly at first, but now I'm sure there's something terrible in that bag. It was so wet and reeked of blood. Did you see how heavy it was when he got out of the car? I don't even want to imagine what could be in there. Plus, his money had bloodstains on it. I'm sure he's up to no good. We need to call the police.
Wait, did we just help him commit a crime?
I think we did. I mean, we just saw some proof, but we need to be sure if we're going to say he did commit a crime. Then we can call the police and tell them our story. We didn't have a choice, Troy.
Yeah, I think you're right. So what do we do?
How about you stay here? I'm going in to check on what he's doing through that window. Then we can confirm what he's up to.
Okay, but be careful. Toni gets out of the car and heads towards the farm. She tiptoes her way out to the window. The window is full of spiderwebs and dust, looking like it hasn't been cleaned for very long. Toni dusts it off and tries to peek inside. Toni sees the silhouette of Mr. Sutter putting on an apron. She clears it off with her hand and sees it more clearly. The apron is full of blood marks and little bits and pieces of meat. Toni freaks out and almost gives out a scream. She holds her mouth with her hand. Mr. Sutter then goes over to a table and lifts a heavy instrument. Toni can't see properly. She dusts off the remaining cobwebs, and the dust gets scattered in the window. Mr. Sutter is seen lifting a cleaver dripped in blood. She opens her mouth in awe and fear. She accidentally inhales the dust cloud and sneezes. Mr. Sutter suddenly shouts from inside,
"Who's there? Come out!"
Toni runs for her life back to the car. She quickly gets in and explains everything to Troy. As she is describing, they both hear a loud scream coming from the house. Toni and Troy look at each other with fear in their eyes. Suddenly, the door of the house flings open, and Mr. Sutter begins to rush towards the car.
Start the car! Troy, he's coming! Hurry!
Troy tries to start the car, but it won't.
Hurry up! He's got a huge knife! He's coming to kill us! Go!
I'm trying! It's not starting! What are we gonna do? If you like our videos, don't forget to subscribe